Amy Walter, editor-in-chief and publisher of the Cook Political Report, joins me now. So a lot of what I've learned about double haters, I've learned from reading you and the things you write and listening to you talk. So let's just start with the basics. I mean, who are the double haters and what percentage of voters are they?
That's a good question. I think they mostly fall into they define themselves as independents. I talked to one pollster the other day who told me that in polling that he's done, up to 40% of independents say they dislike both candidates. So that's a significant, that's a significant group of people.
Is it bigger than normal?
Well, so overall, I think it's somewhere between, so in our swing state polling that we did about 2.5 weeks ago now, what we found is about 16% of voters can be in that category. I've seen polls that it's anywhere, especially the national polls, up to 25% of all voters. So it's a significant group. In 2016, it was somewhere between 13 and 14 overall, so a little bit more than in 2016. And we know what happened in 2016, right? That those voters at the very end broke disproportionately for Donald Trump. And I think part of the reason why, that's why I was going to, who the spotlight is on at the end matters more than anything. What were we talking about going into the weekend before the election? It was more emails. It was James Comey. It was, right, that spotlight.
Who the spotlight was on.
Exactly.
The other person
benefits.
Other
person. Usually in a campaign, you want your candidate in the spotlight going into the final days of the campaign. In this case, I think both of these candidates would be happy if the spotlight were on the other candidate and specifically on their liabilities.
A referendum on the other person, definitely, which is such an interesting thing. Let me ask you about the demographics. As I understand it, it's younger, more diverse.
Yep. They don't identify as much with the party. I mean, if you think about in your previous piece about black voters, I think you have a lot of black voters right now who are saying, I just don't really see a reason for me to vote for Joe Biden, right? That they are sitting right now in this sort of just uncomfortable place where they don't know if they're really going to vote, why they should vote for Biden. They're not necessarily over on the Trump camp. So you can put that then into that category. And many of these younger voters of color have felt disinclined to be part of this process for a long time because they don't feel like they have a place in our modern politics, that they haven't been inspired or excited, and that the voters that the candidates haven't been speaking directly to their issues.
So there's so many different issues that candidates, different parties want to talk about. Right. I mean, a lot of Democrats you talk to, they want to talk about abortion rights. You look at how the Biden campaign has spent money. The Trump team, well, sometimes they want to talk about his own legal issues. That's a whole other separate thing, but also about immigration and the border.
Yeah.
What do these voters want to hear about? What do they care most about? Do we know?
Well, it's interesting. We've been taking a deep dive into some of these voters who, they're not necessarily double haters, but they are undecided. At least we had a bigger sample of people who either are undecided or they're falling into third party. What's interesting is many of them, abortion is a very critical issue for them. Other group of voters where abortion's a critical issue are people who don't show up in every election. You probably know them as drop-off voters, people who are less inclined to show up in every single election. Abortion is a very important topic to them. Now, of course,
it might motivate them.
It might motivate them to actually come out and vote. I think that's why you're seeing so much of the advertising from the Biden campaign or the focus of the Biden campaign talking to those voters about this issue, because obviously the economy is the second. That's also something that they're very, very concerned about.
And on the economy, because that does pop. It just keeps popping as the number one issue, including in the recent Harvard poll among young people, which popped as kind of the number one issue among young people, voters under 29. What is the message that group, is there a message that's clear they want to hear?
I don't know. I think the message is that they want things not to cost as much, especially when it comes to the cost of housing, when it comes to the cost of stuff. This was what we found in our polling that was the most problematic for the president is you ask people, what's your number one concern? The cost of living. Okay. Do you think the president has an ability to bring the cost of stuff down? Overwhelming majority said yes, the president can do something about this. Do you think Joe Biden can do that? No. Do you think Donald Trump can? Yes. Now, that is really, when it comes right down to it, the idea that things cost too much, the president can do more than he is doing, and he hasn't been able to follow through. Donald Trump would be able to do that. That's why this conversation about unemployment and infrastructure is not breaking through, not because people don't like those things, but because they want the cost of stuff to be less.